Great, well, welcome everybody to this sunny day in Hawaii. And we will call the meeting to order, and it is now 3:05, so roll call. Jeff.
Member Keller,
Here,
member Chair White,
Yes, here.
a member Carol Schulten is absent.
Okay. So any changes to the agenda at all from reading it earlier?
Nope.
If not,
I move that we adopt the agenda as is.
well, we can just do all in favor. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passes.
Motion
unanimously.
passes, yep. Okay. Approval of minutes,
I move we
regular minutes of
Approve.
October 31st.
approve the minutes of the Development Committee meeting of October 31st, 2023.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the agenda is approved unanimously.
The minutes.
The minutes, I should say, the the approval too. Any public communications, Francisco?
Mr. Maya,
None of mine.
Okay. We'll close the public communication. Formal items 4.01, review and recommend authorization to enter into a construction contract between Homecomings and McCarthy Companies for the construction of HACSB West Side Street Improvements Project, WSI. Staff report?
No,
Sorry,
I
are we on the right agenda?
should be 4.01.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4.01.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
It's property management developer, yes.
yeah.
Acquiring property, assigning contracts.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a big one.
I'll turn to Karen. We'll go with Karen.
Okay, this is for Valentine Road.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to acquire the property and we have a lot of stuff going on, so Kyler is going to explain it all.
Okay,
And we're gonna have sort of not exactly near, but resolutions under the housing authority that to review and also under Homecomings.
Yeah, in total for Valentine Road today, there's 3 resolutions, one for the housing authority and 2 for homecomings.
okay.
The one for the housing authority and one of the ones for homecomings is what Goldfarb, our closing deal attorneys, what they refer to as kitchen sink resolutions, and everything in the kitchen sink. But it covers a lot, but in general, it puts us in good shape to close on the property, which is very exciting. We're getting close. Before I dive into specifically what the resolutions are actually, what you are authorizing with the resolutions, just as a general update on the Valentine Road project. Home Key is still in the process of reviewing the standard agreement. That standard agreement is, it's the enforceable contract between the housing authority and the state HCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. Once they review the standard agreement, we will then everything from there on is like an administrative process to disperse the $30-ish million to the housing authority so that we can finally close on and acquire the hotel. So these resolutions are just getting us prepared to do that. We're still waiting on HCD to finish their review. Once that review comes in, we'll be able to facilitate actually acquiring the hotel. So it's a really exciting time for us. On top of that, we're applying for tax credits right now, and so lots going on. But this is just one of the items we need. So next slide. So for the housing authority, essentially there's 4 different actions, umbrella actions that you're doing in resolution 24-01. The first thing is acquiring property. And so the housing authority is acquiring property because I should have had a map pulled up, and I will for the board meeting. But there's a vacant parcel along with the hotel. And as we had discussed, the strategy with that vacant parcel is the housing authority wants to, as much as possible, preserve that or that parcel's potential for future affordable housing development. So we don't want that vacant parcel that's adjacent to the property in the hotel deal. So the housing authority, we've worked out with the seller that the housing authority will acquire that vacant parcels in a separate transaction from the Home Key deal. So the first thing this resolution does is allow you to, acquire that vacant parcel.
And you talked a little bit about wanting to do more with it. What were you thinking about doing more? Or-
That is a question for when we're not trying to figure out what to do with the hotel.
You just want the
parcel.
property.
Well, it was a part of the original option, like
Okay.
it was, so when we were negotiating with the hotel. We had kind of known that it was these two parcels, but we hadn't quite realized how separate they were.
Oh,
And that second parcel is essentially entirely vacant except for a driveway access. And nothing's been built on it for the past like 40 years.
mhm.
So it's just sat vacant, and it's,
And we are exploring what that would look like, but
Yeah.
as Kyler said, we need to focus on getting Valentine Road
Oh,
completed
sure,
before we
yeah.
move on to that.
I just wondered if
But we
you
are looking at ideas.
thought of
Yeah.
building another project. or-
It could be-
Absolutely,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
an option.
Housing makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of really good ideas floating around. And I think we'll,
Tell us later.
yeah.
Yeah.
To be determined, but it is a really exciting opportunity, and as ideas come, staff is willing to take those into consideration. Yeah, so the first thing is that acquiring property. The second thing is assigning contracts. This happens in every transaction, but early on in pre-development. When a project is just at its infancy, we don't normally have the limited partnerships formed or the LLCs and things like that. And so the early contracts that we sign are sometimes with the housing authority. And so to the extent that any of the contracts in this deal have been signed with the housing authority, those will get assigned over to the limited partnership so that they all stay with the project with the limited partnership. So there's a couple of contracts like our phase 1 environmental report, some kind of early stage stuff that needs to be assigned over. And this will authorize you to do, or authorize us to do that. On the financing front, this is pretty straightforward. It allows Jeff to sign the home key standard agreement, and allows us to accept the home key funds. And then it will allow us to take the home key funds and assign them or loan them directly to the partnership. So this allows, the reason they're being granted to the housing authority and then loaned to the partnership, there is a reason, I don't know what the
So,
reason is.
The reason is that it's more beneficial for a tax credit project to have the funds be a loan to the limited partnership. So the basic home key funds are a grant, so the grant comes to the housing authority loans it to the partnership. That's what we did with Albertal also.
Mhm.
Yeah, so and it all happens like in the same transaction, essentially the same closing, so it's mostly just on paper. This helps us with our scoring. Then the fourth thing is entering contracts. This is authorizes the housing authority to both serve as the property manager, so enter into the contract between the limited partnership and the housing authority for property management. And it allows for service contracts with the partnership. So that's the supportive services side of things with our community services department, essentially, all of those case managers and things like that. It allows the housing authority to provide those services. And then it ultimately authorizes us to enter into a HAP contract. We're not at that stage where the HAP is ready to be entered into, but it's good to get board authorization now while we're asking for everything else. And so that covers everything the housing authority will need to do this month in order to close
Mhm.
Valentine Road. Just a couple of things.
So we're asking for you to recommend approval to the Board
Board,
of
yeah.
Commissioners.
Can you delineate a little bit on the HEP contracts?
So the housing authority about a year ago issued a request for proposals for 31 basically the housing authority determined that it had 31 project vouchers available that they could allocate to a project. So the housing authority issued an RFP. There was one organization that responded to that RFP, Homecomings Inc. You may have heard of them.
Yeah,
And Homecomings Inc. was successfully selected through that RFP process, to be awarded 31 project-based vouchers. We've since heard from the housing authority that there are 32 project-based vouchers.
I was gonna say,
available.
wait a minute.
And so the project-based vouchers are a critical part of supporting the feasibility of this project.
That's what the HAP contract is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the good news is we went from 31 to 32.
Bit, yeah. Yeah. Well, there's actually 32 empty apartments there, right?
It'll be 134.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
More.
so that's what before then, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's 34, you said?
100, well, we think there's 134-ish, well, maybe.
Yeah, ultimately, there will be 134, well, 133 studios and one bedroom.
Mhm.
So the resolution before you does all of that.
Mhm.
And the recommendation is to recommend approval to the board.
You have any questions at all on this, anything?
Not yet. But I just know, I'd like the idea that we're just thinking ahead and getting some of this stuff prepared in advance.
Yep.
Okay, so it's gonna go over to our next board meeting.
Yep.
And probably our next homecomings meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it'll be both.
Yeah.
Next week.
Okay, yeah, I think it's just important that we keep things separate and
Yeah,
we know who's on first, so to speak. You know?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you have any questions? No questions? Nothing? Seek a motion to approve,
Recommend,
recommend this
Um,
to the board.
I move that we recommend, to the board, the resolution, approval of the resolution 24-01, acquiring property, assigning contracts, financing, and entering HAP, property management, development, and service agreements.
Second, roll call.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes,
Commissioner Schulten's absent, Chair, White.
Yes,
Okay, motion passes.
motion passes.
Unanimous.
And then for the Board of Commissioners meeting, is there anything that you would find helpful, to supplement the
Well, I
presentation?
think you mentioned the
Yeah.
picture.
you mentioned the map, that would be, visuals are
Yeah.
great, thank you. And
Okay.
you've always been so good on that, thank you.
Yeah. No, I think it pretty well lays out nicely.
Is this helpful, just having a simple screen that kind of walks you through? 'Cause
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks, Tyler.
okay. 4.02. Review and recommend that the full Board of Commissioners approve an additional loan, more money, of $1,400,000. Wow, sending to Chapel Lane. Okay, great, thank you. Staff report, 1 billion.
1 billion, we wish. Okay, so Chapel Lane, as you may remember, is our oldest tax credit project.
Right.
And a couple of years ago, we acquired the limited partnership. The Housing Authority acquired the limited partnership interest in Chapel Lane. And we refinanced the project. So we wholly control between our two entities, Chapel Lane. And we've been working for 2 years on a project to do some renovations for Chapel Lane. So we have a couple of kind of near reports, Housing Authority and later with Homecomings. And this is a bit of a work in progress. We're nearing the finish line and we are asking you to make these motions, but we're still working through some important details that you will see as we go through this. So Sonia Flores is the project manager. Take it away.
Good. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background about the project, so Chapel Lane Apartments is a 38-unit affordable senior development. It's restricted to residents at 62 years or above. It consists of 34 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units, and it was placed in service in 2005. And then approximately about 20 years later, we, as the Housing Authority, acquired the partnership and refinance the property to make improvements to the almost 20-year-old project. So we did two things. First thing we did is a capital needs assessment, which was conducted to identify necessary updates to the aging building systems. And then we also conducted resident surveys, and this was more to ask the residents exactly what do you think needs to be improved on the property. And from those two surveys, we came up with a list of things that we can include in the scope of work for the renovation for Chapel Lane. So this list actually captures those different recommendations. So one of them was heat abatement. So we're gonna install a variable refrigerant flow system that efficiently provides heating and cooling to the entire property. Out of the capital needs assessment, one of the recommendations was to renovate some of the units to make them ADA adaptable. And then also we applied for two different rebates with two different programs. And one of them was the Solar on Multifamily Affordable Housing Program. That's the SOMA program. And that will provide us the funding in order to put photovoltaic solar system in the project. And then also we applied for a rebate with 3C REN, which is the Tri-County Renewable Energy Network. And what they provided us with was with a list of recommended energy efficiency measures. And from that, we'll be adding in central heat pump for hot water heaters, low flow toilets, low flow sinks, LED fixtures, and attic insulation into the project. And then here's just an actual site plan from our current proposed photovoltaic plants. And as you can see, there's the PV or the solar panels that are located both on the top of the roof. Pointer on the top of the roof of the building to the building in the front. Here's Snapdragon, here's Los Angeles Avenue. And then in the back, we're going to be having a new carport constructed in order to put more of the PV or solar panels on top of the ports, or the carports. So that's in the back parking lot behind the building.
Do we need to go out and get a bid for solar?
We did,
Mhm.
yeah, we already did, and we chose, I'm sorry, not like
Spectrum.
Spectrum, sorry, mixing up projects, we chose Spectrum. And got
So we
it.
did this through the SOMA process.
Okay.
And I think they were the lowest bid, but besides
They
that,
weren't exactly the lowest bid, but all the bids were a little bit differently, and staff looked at this and thought that their proposal, including the carports, was the best.
Mhm.
The other things that will be included in the work is a new roof, painting the residential unit interiors, replacing the flooring within the residential units, repaving the parking lot, and also including landscaping improvements. So I just want to give you a little information about the construction schedule and the relocation schedule. So the construction is estimated to take about 6 months. It's going to start, it's estimated to start on May the 6th, and then will end on October the 4th. But it is a part of the work that we're including in the scope of work. Some of this will need to be done within the units of the actual residents. So because of that, this is going to require us to relocate them off-site. And so currently, if you can see, can you move? I don't know if you can move that. Maybe not. Thank you. You can see this is the proposed relocation schedule. And there's some units, it's going to be in a staggered schedule, meaning that some units will be vacating the property on May the 28th, but then on the bottom, we have some units vacating closer to June the 11th. So they'll be leaving the property and they'll be off-site approximately 31 days, relocated off-site. Yeah. So what we've done is we've already started to meet with the residents. We had a relocation meeting at the end of January, and we're going to be having 2 more relocation meetings. One will be on February the 20th and one on February 21st. We'll have about half the units in the first one and half the units in the second one, and it will be at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Also, we found that there was a lot of really in-depth questions that came up during the first meeting. So we wanted to give residents a chance to meet with staff one-on-one. And that was at Jeff's suggestion, which is a great suggestion. So we're going to have office hours held on February 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then on February 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And all this will be located in the community room at Chapel Lane. And then also we've been handing out notices to invite them to these different relocation meetings. One went out before the one in January. We just sent one out last week to let them know about the upcoming February dates for the relocation meetings and also for the office hours. But we're going to do a third notice, and that'll be next week on February the 14th. And that one will be a little different. It'll let them know about the upcoming meetings, but it'll also include the 90-day notice to vacate. So, technically, we were only required to do a 60-day notice, but we'd like to do a 90-day notice just to give them more time to plan for the relocation. So they can start packing and getting ready. But we're gonna let them know that the estimated start date, and they know this already, but the estimated start date is on May the 28th. So. Let's see, oh, and included in the notice will be, like I said, the 90-day notice to vacate, and also we're gonna include a questionnaire, and the questionnaire will ask them, it'll let them know the different housing options that they have as far as relocation, and it will ask them what their preference is as far as those options. So the options that we have so far is, the first one is that they can relocate permanently to Westview Village Phase 2, because that's about to finish construction. We're about to start lease ups, I think April 1st, I think is the date. And so it would be great, wonderful, if they decided to move to Westview 2, because it would kind of kill two birds with one stone. They'd be able to help us with Westview 2, you know, getting people leased up, and then also as far as relocating. I'll explain the reason for that as well later in a little bit. The second option is moving them into AMP1, which is basically all the public housing that's left on Barnett Street, right next to us. And so currently we have 14 vacancies. They're all different, you know, sizes. There's, I think, 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms included. But that's a good chunk of our units if they want to relocate temporarily to someplace.
I
And
will
then-
say that requires some work. So
It does.
Facilities is evaluating what it would take to get those back into
Yeah.
operation.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like currently they don't have appliances inside of them because we
Well-
thought eventually it'd be demolished.
Yeah.
So we'd have to look at that cost as well to the project and,
Yeah.
and look at weighing that option. But I think it's a good option because the motel, anyways, not getting too much into the details,
Yeah.
but it was more expensive going other routes.
Yeah.
And then the third option is for them to live with family or friends,
Mhm.
and they would be given a stipend, and that's also another option that they have. And we're looking at other options as well, but we think these 3 are really good options to begin with.
I should know how many units, but how many units altogether?
How many units?
Units?
38,
Okay, so,
yeah.
okay.
So, so what we're coming before you today is to actually ask you to approve a loan that would be given from the Housing Authority to Chapel Lane LP, and it would be about $1.5 million. And so I wanted to give you the background about why we're asking for this and how the costs have increased in the budget in general. So this is the sources summary, and so this shows currently what our sources are that we have. So everything in blue, it's a little hard to see on this one, sorry about that, you guys, but everything in blue is basically things that have either changed their position on this chart. The top part are sources that have been approved, the bottom are sources that are being proposed today. And then some of them have been changed because the number's been changed. I'll go over it. So the MBT loan, we're showing it now in the approved part because last time, I think it was brought before you, that we were asking for additional and an additional amount to fall under the MBT loan. And you guys approved that in your last meeting on Chapel Lane. That must have been back in December, I think, of 2022. But now it's at $5,400,000, so it's been approved. Also, I moved this line up as well, the excess cash flow payments. So part of our funding is going to come from excess cash flow from the years of 2022 and 2023. And you guys also approved this at the last board meeting about Chapel Lane. And so it's at $496,000, the same amount, but now it's under the approved section. So for the proposed, what we're asking for is a little bit more to come from the Chapel Lane Housing Trust Fund source that we have. We asked for that previously, but we just found out from accounting, there's actually about $4,000 left in that account that we can still access. So we're asking for approval on that. And then also, we're asking for an additional loan from the Housing Authority to Chapel Lane LP in about $1.4 million.
And just to be clear, these loans would be paid back out of cash flow from the project.
From the
Yeah.
years after 2023, a
Right.
few years after
Okay.
that, correct? And so I just wanted to give you an explanation of where the $1.3 million came from that we're asking for.
So just basically to summarize, since we started looking at this originally, the costs have gone up significantly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Construction
Yeah.
costs are
Yeah.
just going up. And then the 2 big pieces are that and the relocation costs are
Yeah.
higher than we originally estimated because because,
Timeframe's longer.
well, the timeframe's longer.
Exactly.
Or what the initial timeframe that McCarthy gave us was longer. And we just missed some costs, but those are the two big pieces that have increased our costs.
Exactly. And I mean, and for the construction estimates, when we went out to, when McCarthy was reviewing those in the beginning, we didn't have approved plans. And so now we do have approved plans. And those are the ones they took to bid in this most recent round with the subcontractors. So now they have more definitive costs. Those came out to be about another $900,000 from like a year and a few months ago. But also, we also got more definitive costs as far as our own insurance costs. We got a quote from our insurance agent, so that was also added into this budget. And then, again, it's everything that's in blue that was changed basically.
Wow.
So yeah, our relocation cost went literally from about $150,000 to $621,000. That's because the relocation time was tripled, basically. It went from almost 6 weeks to about 3.5 months that we were quoted. And so anyways, and you'll see some differences. And then the architectural fees, we're increasing the scope of work for the architect. We're bringing in an owner's rep for this. But those were honestly, the biggest costs had to do with the relocation. Yeah, and also, we added in moving costs because we'll need a professional moving company, because it's a senior population and about
Right.
6 or 7 of the residents were in wheelchairs.
Mhm.
So we definitely will need more help for the residents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that all added to about $1.4 million of a funding gap.
So this is a lot in addition to already 700,000 that we'd already committed to lend from our housing trust fund. So we've been trying to look at how can we decrease those costs. So we gave McCarthy and our design team a heavy lift to see how we could value engineer. And we're looking at kind of two main things. And so McCarthy has come back with, these are a whole list of things that we can essentially not do now, like we don't have to paint the building now. And things like that. And that's a significant decrease in what we would have to lay out. And
We
then-
budgeted for painting the building at the beginning.
Yes,
didn't we? Yeah.
yes, we
Okay.
did.
How much are we
But
saving by not painting the building?
about 100,000.
That's a week.
Okay, we'll chart here.
While you're looking for that, so when we approved this over a year ago, what kept us from moving on to it right away?
So it's,
What kept us
so
a year
basically,
later?
we're saving about 100,000 on the painting. So basically, it's going through the design process. So it's been very tricky. I mean, one of the really important things to the residents was adding air conditioning.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
feel it's really important, and we
Okay.
thought we could handle that. But as we got into it, it's kind of tricky because this sort of unit systems that we looked at originally, working with our consultants, were not been approved by the state. So our MEP, our mechanical, electrical and plumbing consultant is recommending what's the abbreviation?
HP.
VH
HPV,
something.
yeah.
It's like ones you find in motels.
Right, yeah.
Basically
As the most energy efficient and best solution in this case. But it turns out it's not really inexpensive.
Mhm.
And going through the design process has taken a while to get us to this point.
Longer than we thought. huh?
Longer than we thought.
Yeah.
Everything sort of takes.
And we
longer.
didn't have access to switchgear equipment back then either, which was one of the things that we were going to at that point include. And so anyways.
So we
Hmm.
kind of went back and forth, making sure that we had the right switchgear in place so that we wouldn't be delayed by that. We are still internally reviewing whether we think we can live with this value engineering estimate, and Jeff hasn't even seen it yet, and, we're gonna be talking to staff about it yet tomorrow. But we think most of it is pretty feasible. And so that's a significant decrease. I kind of in this So on the left is the current proposal where we were asking
Mhm.
for an additional 1.4 million. On the right is a sort of estimate where we're looking at decreased, construction costs and also decreasing our relocation costs. We're still not sure what that would be. I just put 500,000. I think we can do better than that. And with all these changes, that actually would allow us to decrease our additional loan to about 200,000. We'd still like to ask for approval for, I'm gonna say 500,000.
Mhm.
And
Well, we're asking for 1.4 now.
Right.
yeah, okay,
If we can adjust it between now and the board meeting, we will. But, or if it ends
Yeah.
up being let, we don't want the authority up to that amount.
Okay,
We're gonna
that's-
try to bring the number down.
yes,
And I will say, having sat in on the resident meeting a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
first of all, Sonia did a fantastic job in front of a fairly anxious, somewhat angry
I
crowd.
bet, yeah.
So it was a rough crowd. It was
Yeah.
packed, everybody showed
Mhm.
up.
Yeah,
But the amount of people that had a lot of personal anxiety
Oh, yeah.
about the whole.
they've been
idea
living
of
there
having to-
for a long
And they have
time.
to pack up everything
Yeah.
and put it in storage and go live in a motel and we intentionally had the first meeting where we didn't have a lot of answers. Because we wanted to at least start the conversation and get their
Yeah.
questions.
Right,
And so we didn't have answers to a lot of their questions. We have more answers now. When we come back in February, we'll have more. But this is a big deal for these residents to
Yeah,
know about,
yeah.
however we do it. So, but we also can't not give them air conditioning. Because that's clearly. what they
Over
want.
there, it gets way
It's-
way too hot. It's such a danger.
Yeah, so that's why we're really trying to give them what they want, but also if you can imagine, you make them, pack up and move out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then they come back with air conditioning, but the unit doesn't look any different.
Right,
It'd be nice if we painted those floors, you know what I mean? It's just like, how do we
Yeah.
figure out how to give them something that's actually valuable to them?
see a difference.
And
So-
it's worth going through all that hassle.
Yeah.
so this revised lower budget does include painting the individual apartments, having new flooring, having new plumbing fixtures and new electric. It's not gonna be new cabinets, it's not gonna be
Mhm.
new
Yeah.
countertops, but it is gonna be a lot of,
Yeah.
new stuff there.
Yeah, even though I do agree with your reasoning about postponing, for example, the exterior painting. Paint works, in the future, the price is probably just gonna go up.
Everything
I
is.
mean, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand.
It's
Yes.
true,
Yeah.
but honestly, we're committing a lot of our resources that won't get paid back. That will get paid back over time, but we're
Mm.
tying up a lot of our resources in this,
Yeah.
so we're trying to balance all these things, minimize that.
I understand that. I just had to ask,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I mean, it
And
just.
not everybody loves the multicolored building anyway, so, but some
That-
people do.
that's-
but not everybody.
Look,
Yeah.
all I'm concerned about is the safety of the building and as it is waterproof as far as the aesthetics. I say it's not my beeswax, So, it's just as long as it's not, it's not soaking in the rain or anything like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not,
Yeah.
but no, it's just one of these things about, it's a difficult, it's a hard call.
Mhm.
But I know I understand. I just had to say that,
Yep.
like.
And I will,
Yeah.
maybe this is a little side piece that we didn't really get into, but this project is really tight. Valentine Road looks like will be very adequately funded, and Jeff said we had to paint the building, so we are painting Valentine.
Fine.
Pink.
I get some
To
win.
be
I
determined.
get a
Barbie?
win somewhere.
Barbie pink? I hope not.
Well, speaking of painting, I was probably responsible. I sat on the Partners in Housing Board. We built that home, those apartments.
Right, and you've already repainted it once,
And we
right?
painted it once, that's, here, not when we owned them, but when we built them and had them out there. We liked the idea of getting different color paints and stuff, but
I can tell.
it didn't go well. That was 20 years ago
That's
or
true.
more.
Yeah.
And there was nothing else around
There was
it.
nothing
It
else
was all by
around.
itself.
None of those houses were over there,
Wow.
And it was a big deal for us to do that. And I remember talking about air conditioning and stuff and what do you do, air conditioning?
Right.
They're not that bad, coming from the Midwest, we didn't have air conditioning, so, you don't need it out here. And then there was something else we talked a lot about. We wanted to make sure that that it lasted, the
Yeah.
furniture, the furniture not so much, but the appliances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as you all know, 20 years later, you gotta replace all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's just a sidebar. But I remember walking through that place, just studs walking around and they're going, this is gonna be so neat, you
Yeah.
know, seniors, this is gonna be sure.
And
Anyway,
it is,
And it's a great place.
Um,
You can tell people like to live there. So,
yeah, and I guess I'm looking at this other bit of information, eliminating new appliances.
Yeah,
I guess we just replace them as they break. Is that what we're gonna
Right.
be doing?
yeah.
And then exterior painting of building. I like the way it is. New awnings and new window coverings. Without those, it's gonna be hotter in those apartments. So I don't know how much.
well, there are existing awnings and they're in okay shape.
Oh, okay.
And there are existing window coverings.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what's over there right now,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yep.
It'd be purchasing, faux blinds, faux wood blinds, similar to what we have in Rancho Verde.
Oh,
That's what this
okay.
It was a
proposal,
significant upgrade.
yeah. Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we had probably the metal.
Yeah, we have the
real thin
regular,
ones and stuff.
regular blind.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we don't skimp on this. If we get a few more dollars to put in there, I think we should.
Well, I mean, honestly, we got the $5.4 million refinance loan, but all the, and we got, you know, some of these rebates and stuff, but the rest of it is us internally lending it, and that means we're tying up resources that we can't use to do other housing too, so it's a trade-off.
Well, to do other housing, we've got a pretty big project out at the end of Victoria. And with this, and then aren't we getting ready to redo, what's the name of it up the street here?
West U4?
Pardon?
West
Well,
U4?
Santa Clara,
Santa Clara.
Oh.
yep,
No,
you'll be
Santa Clara.
hearing about.
Oh,
you
no,
won't be
no,
hearing
just
about
a
that.
minute.
We got enough money for that?
We're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I mean, the
again,
goal is to make sure that we have money for future deal flows.
Yeah.
Because other opportunities might show up that
sure,
our
sure.
timing is critical. and
Yeah, as
So,
long as we keep the ones we have now in decent shape.
absolutely.
Anyway, okay, anything else? We'll
What was it?
share this information, you know, with the board,
Yeah.
obviously, and,
So we're
I don't know if
recommending
you can even, if you can mention about, well, if we need more, we may need to come back to you.
Well, I think what we're asking for is up
You're
to
asking-
1.4,
Yes.
and we're not gonna ask for more than that, and we're working on making it smaller, making
Right.
the number
Oh,
smaller.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and if between now and the board meeting, we can come to some decision on a smaller number, we'll adjust it at the board meeting next week.
okay.
Oh, excuse me, Sonia, could you expand just a little bit on why you would prefer to have people go to Westview too?
Well, honestly, when we met with them, during the relocation meeting, they were very against going into the motels.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the first, I mean, several people had that comment. And it's hard because there's not a whole lot of motels, especially in the Ventura area, that have full kitchens. So because of that,
I lived through the red conversion, the
Yeah.
first red
Okay.
conversion.
There you go.
I've been through it, but
Yes.
my situation is not like I'm not in a wheelchair and.
Yeah.
yes, so our thought, exactly, and people with wheelchairs,
Yeah,
I mean,
that-
we found
that-
out so much from that meeting.
uh,
But so Westview two would have the elevator, it's a beautiful, it's gonna be a beautiful project, guys. It's-
But yes, you don't have to convince. me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we heard
I see.
that there was like at least one household that wanted to move back to the west side. A lot of the people in Chapel Lane, they
Yeah.
love that community,
Right,
they're
I was
probably
gonna
gonna wanna
say.
stay.
Yeah.
But people who are in Chapel Lane, they're already approved for Section 8, so they can have first priority to move into.
Oh, no,
Westview.
I think
So-
it's
Mhm.
perfect.
So the option for them is they would only have to move once.
I think, no, I just wanted to just catch up on that just a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Just, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And
There's
it's
a-
air conditioning and it's new and blah, blah,
Exactly.
blah, 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 and it's beautiful and yes,
Yep.
and everything like that. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're gonna have tours of these places? We
Yes,
got a
we
do,
choice. Is
yes.
it
Yeah, well,
This one, this one, or this one, which
We're
one do you
gonna
wanna
do
go?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the motels,
there's a couple of them that have kitchenettes.
Mhm.
I know,
and stuff
I know,
like
I
that.
stayed in
There
one in
are.
the kitchen, but still like
and we've used them in the
yeah.
past, I think, but they're
Yeah, we-
but they're also
do we-
expensive.
over Christmas.
Well, maybe we can get a better deal on that.
Yes,
too.
we're working on, it, yeah.
Yeah, Which ones are you looking at?
So so far, we've really looked at the Viking and what's the one that is next to it?
It's just been the Viking motel, but that owner owns a few of the different motels along Thompson and then also some in Oxnard, but anyways, the
So that's
one.
what we used for, they do have kitchenettes, that's what we used for El Portal. You know, they're not great, but they do have kitchenettes.
Mhm. That's true.
Maybe we can,
And honestly, oh no, I won't go there. We've been looking at a lot of different options, let's just put it that way.
Trying to narrow it down.
anybody have an extra bedroom? Is that what you're talking? Okay.
So the action is to recommend approval to the board.
Yes. So let's, you have any more questions at all?
To be seen.
Okay, so I seek a motion.
Want to make
Recommend
this
it.
one?
Recommended the Board of Commissioners approve an additional loan of $1.4 million to the Housing Authority of the City of San Buenaventura to Chapel Lane LP.
I second.
Jeff?
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz absent, Chair White.
Yes. Thank you for the report. Okay. Do you have anything you want to share? It stopped raining. That's good news. Yeah, it will stop raining the next couple of days.
Valentine's Day between noon and 2, if you want to come down the community room, Grace and crew are making tacos. And there'll be
Cool.
other stuff
Hmm.
too. Just, everybody's invited because we're friendly. And I am now the president of VDMC RAC
Yay,
Great, congratulations.
as a,
because you weren't busy enough.
That's right.
well, the president, Chris, she'll be vice president, but she's been having a few health issues and she needs to just step
To
back
move
just
things
a little bit. Yeah, we move things around. And I'm training some, anyway.
That's great. Excellent.
Okay. I'm just looking forward to the sun in 2 days.
Mhm.
The last one.
You believe the weather reports?
Yeah.
I look at a lot of different weather reports.
Okay, then.
Yeah, it will be sunny in the next 2 or 3 days.
I'm gonna hold you to it, Jim White.
Okay. Other than that, this meeting is adjourned.
Adjourned.
Okay.
Give us a couple minutes to switch and we'll move to home.